They laughed when she walked into that marble-floored office. Not loud enough for her to hear the words, but loud enough for her to feel them. The kind of laughter that cuts deeper than knives. "She doesn't look like CEO material," one whispered, smirking behind his gold watch. She heard the echo of her own footsteps against the cold glass walls, trying to drown out the voices in her head that told her to turn around and leave. But she didn't. Not this time. She had come too far, and her pain had built her spine from iron. Nia Jackson wasn't born with privilege. She was born in a small apartment where the walls were thinner than the hope that lived inside it. Her mother worked double shifts at a nursing home. Her father disappeared before she could spell his name. The kids at school mocked her for her dark skin, her natural hair, her second-hand shoes. But the thing they couldn't see, the thing they couldn't touch, was that fire in her, that quiet defiance. Years later, that same girl was standing in front of Hartwell and Sons, the biggest real estate firm in the city, holding a pitch folder she'd worked on for months. Her idea wasn't just good, it was revolutionary. Affordable housing projects built for single mothers and low-income families, using sustainable materials and community equity. She'd poured her whole heart into it. But to them, she was just another nobody with a dream. Mr. Hartwell, the man behind the empire, leaned back in his leather chair. His suit probably cost more than her rent for a year. "Ms. Jackson," he said, tapping his pen, "you've got passion, but let's be realistic. Our investors don't bet on passion, they bet on image. And frankly, this isn't the image we're looking for." His eyes didn't even meet hers as he closed the folder. The words hit her like a slap. Image. Not potential. Not value. Image. She forced a smile, that brave, trembling kind that women learn when they've had to pretend they're not breaking. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Hartwell," she whispered, gathering her things. But when she reached the door, she stopped. Her voice shook, but her spirit didn't. "One day, Mr. Hartwell," she said softly, "you're going to regret judging me for the mirror instead of the mind." He chuckled, not cruelly, just dismissively. "Miss Jackson, this world isn't built on dreams. It's built on faces that sell them." And with that, she walked out. But what he didn't know was that rejection had never been her enemy. It was her oxygen. Every no she'd ever heard had taught her how to turn pain into strategy. For weeks, she lived on instant noodles and caffeine. Her small apartment became her war room. She studied real estate trends, watched online courses, built mock-ups, and cold-called investors who hung up the moment they heard her voice. Still, she pushed, because somewhere inside, she believed that faith wasn't about seeing the finish line. It was about running blind and trusting you'd land somewhere worth falling. Then one night, the storm hit. Not the kind outside. The kind that comes when you realize you've got $18 left in your bank account and a landlord knocking on your door. She sank to the floor, holding her laptop, whispering, "God, if I'm meant to quit, give me a sign. But if I'm meant to rise, then give me a reason." And maybe God heard, because the very next morning, her inbox pinged. It was a message from a woman named Evelyn Carter, a retired architect turned investor who had seen Nia's pitch deck online. Evelyn wrote, "You remind me of me before they told me I couldn't." That line changed everything. Within weeks, Evelyn became her mentor, her investor, her anchor. Together, they launched Rise Home Collective, a startup built on the same idea Hartwell rejected. The mission: to make home ownership accessible to people who'd been ignored for too long. Started small, one block, one project, one home. But word spread. Investors began to notice. Her face, the one they said didn't fit the part, started showing up on magazine covers. Not because of her looks, but because her vision worked. She was no longer knocking on doors. She was buying the buildings that held them. 1 year later, Rise Home Collective became a headline success. News anchors called her the woman who rebuilt hope. She smiled during interviews but never forgot that boardroom. The smirk, the pen tap, the rejection. Not out of bitterness, but because pain has a way of reminding you where you came from. Then one morning, her assistant walked in with a letter. Handwritten. Expensive paper. She recognized the logo before she even opened it. Hartwell and Sons. Her breath caught. It read, "Ms. Jackson, I believe we may have misjudged your potential. We'd like to offer a partnership proposal. Your developments under our brand. Let's discuss." She laughed. Not mockingly, just the kind of laugh that comes from knowing the tables have finally turned. She typed a reply, fingers trembling not from anger, but from peace. "Mr. Hartwell, thank you for your offer. But the brand I'm building isn't for those who couldn't see me. It's for those who never had the chance to be seen." Weeks later, she was invited to speak at a business summit, the same one Hartwell was attending. The lights were bright, cameras flashing, and as she walked to the podium in her emerald suit, every step echoed with the rhythm of victory earned the hard way. She looked out at the audience, her eyes finding his. His expression wasn't pride or envy. It was something else. Regret. Her voice was calm, her tone steady. "They told me success had a certain look. That power came wrapped in silk and polished smiles. But what they didn't understand," she said, her gaze unwavering, "is that resilience has its own kind of beauty, the kind you can't buy." The crowd erupted. Cameras clicked. And somewhere in the back, Hartwell clapped. Slowly, thoughtfully, like a man finally learning a lesson too late. But just as Nia stepped off the stage, a call came through. Her assistant's voice trembled. "Nia, it's Evelyn. Something's happened." The world around her went silent. The applause faded, the lights dimmed, and for the first time in a long while, she felt that old fear creeping back in. She grabbed her phone, whispering, "What do you mean something's happened?" The answer froze her heart cold. The phone trembled in her hand. Evelyn's name glowed on the screen like a ghost from her past, like a whisper from the woman who gave her everything. "She collapsed at her office," her assistant said, voice quivering. "They rushed her to Mercy General. It doesn't look good." The world spun. The stage lights blurred into streaks of gold and white. The sound of applause, once deafening, now felt like mockery. Just moments ago, Nia was standing at the peak of her triumph. Now it felt like the ground beneath her was cracking open. She ran. Through the hotel lobby, past reporters calling her name, past cameras flashing. All she could hear was Evelyn's laugh. That gentle, knowing laugh that always told her, "Baby girl, don't chase the world. Build your own." Rain poured as she reached the hospital. The sky itself seemed to mourn. Nurses moved like shadows, faces cold with routine, and Nia's heels echoed down the hallway as she whispered, "Please, God, not her, not now." Room 309. She burst in, and there she was, Evelyn Carter. Fragile, pale, her breathing shallow beneath a sea of tubes and wires. The woman who once stood taller than giants now looked impossibly small. Nia dropped to her knees beside the bed, tears breaking free. "You promised me?" she whispered, gripping Evelyn's frail hand. "You said we'd see this through together." Evelyn's eyelids fluttered. Slowly, painfully, she turned her head. "Nia." Her voice was barely a breath. "You did it. You built it. But I'm not done," Nia said through tears. "I still need you." Evelyn smiled faintly. "You never needed me, child. You just needed someone to believe you could." Her eyes flickered open for a moment, and something in them changed. Urgent, heavy. "Listen to me," she whispered. "There's something you don't know. About Rise Home. About the funding." Nia froze. "What are you talking about?" Evelyn coughed, each breath weaker than the last. "It wasn't just me. There was someone else. Someone who. Her voice broke into silence. The monitors screamed. Doctors rushed in. Nia was pushed back, her hands shaking, her world unraveling in a blur of chaos and sirens. An hour later, she stood outside the ICU, drenched in tears and rain. The doctor approached quietly. "She's stable for now," he said gently, "but she needs rest. No visitors until tomorrow." Nia nodded numbly, her mind spinning with Evelyn's last words. Someone else. Who? And why didn't Evelyn tell her sooner? The next morning, a nurse handed her an envelope found in Evelyn's handbag. Her name was written across it in Evelyn's shaky cursive. Inside was a letter. Nia, if you're reading this, then my time is shorter than I hoped. You've done what they said was impossible, but power, my dear, always attracts shadows. There's a name I never told you, the silent investor behind Rise Home. Someone who believed in you long before you knew they existed. But their reasons may not be as pure as mine. Go to my old office. Top drawer, locked. The key is inside the blue folder in my study. Whatever you find, be careful. Trust no one. Not even the ones clapping the loudest. Her heart pounded. She didn't even finish reading before she grabbed her coat and left. Evelyn's old office sat in the heart of downtown. A quiet space filled with books, blueprints, and the scent of old wood. The sunlight filtering through the blinds painted stripes across the floor. She found the blue folder exactly where Evelyn said. Inside it, a small brass key cold against her palm. She unlocked the drawer. Inside was a single black envelope and a faded photo. The photo stopped her breath. It was her, years ago before Rise Home, standing outside Hartwell and Sons. And beside her was Mr. Hartwell himself, shaking Evelyn's hand. Her hands began to tremble. She opened the envelope. Inside was a contract signed by Evelyn and Alexander Hartwell. The same man who'd once dismissed her dreams was secretly one of her biggest investors. The air felt heavy, the room smaller. Her pulse raced. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered. A familiar voice spoke. Calm, cold, deliberate. "I see you found out, Miss Jackson." Her heart stopped. "Mr. Hartwell?" He chuckled softly. "I told you once this world isn't built on dreams. Seems I was wrong. But let's just say, your dream is about to cost more than you can afford." Click. The line went dead. Nia stood frozen, the photo still in her shaking hand. The woman they laughed at had built an empire, but now it seemed that empire was built on a secret deal she never knew existed. And as thunder rolled outside the window, one question echoed in her mind. Had she ever really escaped the people who once rejected her? Or had they been pulling the strings all along? She turned toward the door and froze. Someone was standing in the reflection of the glass, watching her, silent, waiting. The figure in the glass didn't move, just stood there, tall, still, like a shadow that had grown a heartbeat. Nia spun around, her pulse racing. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice sharper than she intended. The office lights flickered, the hum of the air conditioner the only reply. Then, from the darkness near the doorway, a voice. Deep, steady, too familiar. "Easy now, Ms. Jackson. I'm not here to hurt you." A man stepped forward, his suit dark, his expression unreadable. He looked mid-40s, expensive wristwatch, a small scar across his jaw. The kind of man who'd seen things, done things, and never apologized for either. "Who are you?" she asked, gripping the edge of the desk like it could save her. He smiled faintly. "My name's Marcus. I worked with Evelyn." More accurately, his gaze flicked to the photo in her hand. "I worked for Hartwell." The name hit like thunder. "You what?" Marcus sighed, running a hand across his face. "You weren't supposed to find out this way. Evelyn was trying to protect you. Hartwell, he didn't invest in you out of goodwill. He wanted to own what you built." Her chest tightened. "You're lying. Evelyn would never." "I'm not lying," he interrupted softly. "Evelyn fought him on it. Every step. She made sure your name stayed on those contracts. But now that she's..." He hesitated. "Out of the picture, Hartwell's making his move." Nia shook her head, the disbelief clawing at her chest. "That's impossible. I own 80% of Rise Home. The documents are being rewritten," Marcus said quietly. "You'll see soon enough." Before she could speak, he stepped closer and lowered his voice. "Listen to me. You've got two options. Walk away while it's still yours, or stay and find out just how powerful the man you crossed really is." He handed her a small USB drive. "Evelyn wanted you to have this if things went wrong. She said it holds everything you need to know about Hartwell's involvement." Then he turned to leave. "Why are you helping me?" she called out. He paused at the door. Because once, I believed in Hartwell's dream, until I saw what it cost. And just like that, he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Nia's hands trembled as she looked at the USB. Part of her wanted to throw it away, pretend none of this was real. But deep down, she knew Evelyn's warning wasn't just paranoia. It was prophecy. Back at her apartment, she plugged in the drive. Folders loaded one after another, contracts, emails, recordings. And there, buried deep in the files, a video titled The Deal. She clicked play. The screen flickered to life, grainy security footage from an office meeting. Evelyn sat at a long table across from Hartwell. The conversation was muted, but their expressions said everything. Evelyn's face burned with defiance, Hartwell's with smug certainty. Then he slid a folder across the table. She read it, stood, and slammed it shut. The audio crackled in mid-sentence. Evelyn, she'll find out eventually. You can't hide forever. Hartwell, oh, she'll find out. But by the time she does, she'll be too deep to climb out. Nia's stomach dropped. Too deep to climb out. The words echoed in her mind like a curse. Her phone buzzed again, this time her lawyer. Ms. Jackson, he said hesitantly. We have a problem. Hartwell's lawyers just filed an injunction. They're claiming partial ownership of Rise Home based on an undisclosed funding agreement with Evelyn Carter. She felt her knees weaken. That's not possible. Those contracts were… I know, he cut in. But they have documents. Real signatures. Real dates. If they're legit, you could lose everything. She ended the call, staring blankly at the wall. The empire she'd built, brick by brick, rejection by rejection, was starting to crumble. Hours passed. Night fell. The city lights glowed through her window like silent witnesses to her unraveling. She sat in the dark, replaying every word Evelyn had ever said. Power attracts shadows. Then her phone rang again. An unknown number, just like before. She hesitated, answered. Still think you're untouchable? Hartwell's voice was calm, almost amused. You built your empire on my money, Ms. Jackson. I'm just here to collect. You used me, she hissed. No, he said slowly. I created you. Don't forget that. Click. Silence again. Nia's reflection stared back at her from the window. The woman they said would never make it, now standing on the edge of losing it all. But beneath the fear, something else stirred. The same fire she had when they laughed at her, when they turned her away. She wasn't that girl anymore. She would not beg. She would not break. She grabbed the USB again, scanning through the files until she found one labeled Foundation, 2015. Inside was a list of names, investors, donors, hidden partners. And at the bottom, one name that made her blood run cold. It wasn't Hartwell. It was someone closer, someone she trusted, someone still working beside her at Rise Home. Her phone buzzed again, a message this time. No name, just a single line. If you keep digging, you won't live long enough to find the truth. A sound outside, footsteps in the hallway. Slow, steady, stopping right outside her apartment door. The doorknob twisted once. Slow, careful, like whoever stood outside wasn't breaking in, just testing how easy it would be. Nia froze, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The city noise outside faded. Only that soft creak of metal filled the silence. She glanced at the clock. 2:47 a.m. No one should be here. No one even knew her new address except her assistant. And Evelyn. But Evelyn was lying in a hospital bed. She reached for her phone, hands trembling. The footsteps stopped. Then a single knock, quiet, deliberate. 3 times. Nia swallowed hard. Who's there? No answer. Another knock. She stepped backward, her voice shaking now. I'm calling the police. Still silence. Then, a soft male voice, muffled through the door. It's me, Marcus. Relief and fear clashed inside her. She unlocked the door halfway, chain still on. What are you doing here? She whispered. Marcus looked over his shoulder before speaking. They're coming for you, Nia. You've got to move now. Who's coming? She demanded. Hartwell's men. They've been following you since the hospital. I told you you were never supposed to find that drive. He glanced past her shoulder. Where is it? What? The USB. Where is it? His tone changed, sharper, colder. The kind of tone that carried orders, not concern. Her instinct screamed. You said Evelyn wanted me to have it, she said slowly. She did, Marcus said, stepping closer. But it's not safe with you. Give it to me, and I'll get it to someone who can protect you. Who? She asked. He didn't answer, just extended his hand. Now, the silence between them grew heavy, dangerous. Her grip on the door tightened. I don't trust you, she whispered. His jaw clenched. You don't have time for trust. Suddenly, a noise from the stairwell. Footsteps. Multiple. Heavy. Getting closer. Marcus's eyes widened. They're here, he muttered. We have to go. He shoved the door open, snapping the chain. She stumbled back as 3 men in dark coats appeared at the end of the hallway. Run, Marcus shouted, pulling her by the wrist. She didn't think. She just ran. Down the stairwell, her breath ragged, her heels echoing against the concrete. The men followed, boots pounding like gunfire. One shouted into a radio, "Target moving. South exit." The air outside hit her like a slap. Cold, wet. She sprinted through the alley, rain soaking her clothes. Marcus was beside her, scanning the shadows. Keep moving. Who are they? She gasped. Hartwell's cleanup crew. They erase problems. And I'm a problem? You're a liability, he said grimly. They reached a car parked under a flickering streetlight. Marcus unlocked it fast, pushing her in. Tires screeched as they sped into the night. Her heart wouldn't stop racing. The city blurred past in streaks of neon and rain. Where are we going? She demanded. Somewhere safe. You said that before, she snapped. And I'm still running. He didn't respond. His eyes stayed on the road. Then she noticed his phone was buzzing on the dash. A message flashed across the screen. Do not let her reach the file. Her blood turned to ice. What file? She whispered. Marcus didn't look at her. Evelyn's last file. The one Hartwell's been hunting for. You don't know what you're holding, Nia. Then tell me, she shouted. He hesitated. If you knew, you'd never sleep again. The car swerved suddenly as headlights appeared behind them. Black SUV, tinted windows, speeding fast. Hold on, Marcus yelled. A chase erupted through the empty streets, engines roaring, tires screaming. Glass shattered as a bullet cracked the rear window. Nia screamed. They're shooting at us. Marcus grabbed her arm. Get down. Another shot. The car fishtailed, spun, and slammed into a guardrail. Airbags exploded, smoke filling the cabin. Pain shot through her shoulder as she crawled out, coughing. Marcus stumbled beside her, blood trickling from his forehead. Run, he groaned. Don't stop. But she didn't move. You're coming with me. No, he said, pushing her away. They'll kill you if they find you with me. His voice broke. Go. Sirens wailed in the distance. Police or something worse, she couldn't tell. She turned, stumbling down the embankment toward the river. The rain fell harder now, washing the blood from her hands. Behind her, she heard Marcus shout, then a gunshot. Silence. She froze. Marcus. No answer, just the echo of water against stone. She turned back. The SUV's lights still burning, smoke rising from the wreck. Then, from the shadows, a figure stepped out. Not Marcus. Taller, slower, carrying something in his hand, her USB drive. The man raised his head just enough for the light to catch his face. Nia's breath stopped. It wasn't Hartwell. It wasn't Marcus. It was someone she knew. Someone she trusted with everything. The man she'd built Rise home beside. Her co-founder. Her friend. He smiled faintly. You were never supposed to see this, Nia. She backed away, shaking her head. Why are you doing this? His expression hardened. Because sometimes, to build an empire, you have to destroy its queen. He stepped closer, the river glinting behind her like a warning. "You've been asking the wrong question," he whispered. "It's not who betrayed you, it's why." She stumbled, her heels slipping near the edge of the riverbank. The current roared below. The USB in his hand gleamed beneath the streetlight. And just as she whispered, "Please, don't," he took one step forward. The ground beneath her gave way. She fell. The cold river swallowed her scream. The river was colder than fear. Nia hit the water hard, her body twisting, lungs burning as darkness swallowed her whole. She tried to scream, but the current dragged her under, spinning her through black waves and broken memories. Hartwell's smirk, Evelyn's voice, Marcus's warning, her co-founder's face. The man she trusted, the man who just watched her fall. Then, through the chaos, Evelyn's words echoed in her mind. Power attracts shadows. Nia kicked, fought, clawed her way upward. Every ounce of strength, every rejection, every insult she'd ever endured turned into oxygen. She broke through the surface, gasping, trembling, alive. She floated there under the storm's fury, the city lights glimmering above like a world that had forgotten her. But she wasn't done. She would not be another woman erased by men in suits and hidden deals. By dawn, she crawled onto the riverbank, drenched, shivering, but breathing. The skyline looked different now, colder. She walked barefoot through the streets, every step heavy with betrayal and purpose. When she reached Evelyn's hospital, the nurses gasped. She was a ghost made of grit. Evelyn was awake, fragile, weak, but alive. When she saw Nia, tears filled her eyes. "I thought." Nia smiled faintly, voice hoarse. "They tried." Evelyn's hand trembled as she reached out. "They won't stop." "I know," Nia said, "but neither will I." Evelyn nodded, her strength flickering but her spirit fierce. "Then you fight smart, not loud, smart." And that's exactly what she did. Over the next weeks, Nia disappeared from the public eye. Let Hartwell and her co-founder think she was gone. Let them celebrate. Let them grow careless. Behind the scenes, she worked quietly, strategically. The USB drive, recovered from Marcus's wrecked car by an anonymous tip, held everything. Proof of Hartwell's hidden funding, illegal kickbacks, and financial laundering that tied both men together. She handed it to an independent journalist she trusted, a woman who'd once been fired for exposing corruption. "Tell the truth," Nia said. "All of it." And when the story broke, it hit like an earthquake. Headlines everywhere. Real estate titans exposed in fraud scandal. Hartwell empire collapses amid criminal investigation. Rise Home co-founder implicated in conspiracy. They tried to deny it, tried to shift blame, but the receipts didn't lie. Within days, Hartwell was forced to resign. Her co-founder vanished. And Nia, the woman they dismissed, mocked, underestimated, became the face of justice. Reporters called her survival a miracle. They wanted her on talk shows, in interviews, in headlines. But she didn't want fame. She wanted peace. She stood outside her newly rebuilt office. Rise Home reclaimed, the sign read, and faced the crowd gathered there. Cameras flashed, microphones extended. Her voice was calm, steady, strong. "They told me once that success had a certain look, that power came from privilege, that worth was measured in appearance. But I learned something," she said, her gaze sweeping the crowd. "When people underestimate you, they hand you the most dangerous weapon in the world, silence. Because silence gives you time to plan." The crowd listened, silent now themselves. "I was rejected for my face, betrayed for my faith, buried under their greed. But I rose, not because they believed in me, but because I finally believed in myself." She paused, her eyes shining but unbroken. "They built empires on control. I built mine on compassion. And the difference between the two is legacy." Applause erupted, not the hollow kind, but the kind that comes from people who've seen themselves in someone's pain. Afterward, she visited Evelyn one last time. The older woman smiled weakly, tears in her eyes. "You did it." Nia squeezed her hand gently. "We did." Evelyn looked at her, Proud, peaceful. Don't let them turn you cold, Nia. Keep your heart soft. It's what made you unstoppable. Nia nodded, her voice barely a whisper. I won't. That night, she stood alone on her balcony, watching the city lights shimmer like promises. For the first time, the silence didn't feel like loneliness, felt like victory, because she understood now, strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising every single time they try to bury you. She closed her eyes, breathing in the night air, her heart steady, her purpose clear. The woman they rejected for her looks had built an empire they could never ignore, and this time, she wasn't building it for them. She was building it for every girl who had ever been told she wasn't enough. And the world finally learned. You can break her heart, you can take her crown, but you can never silence a woman who's learned to rise from the ashes of her own name.